Hi everyone. So I get this question all the time about can no-code scale? And so we have an expert panel today, so I'm hoping at least I can answer my own question. And it's nice because we have a very diverse panel from different perspectives and different no-code tools. So I'm Harish, I'm the founder of Goodspeed. We're a no-code agency, predominantly using Bubble and Framer to build websites and apps. I'll let the panel introduce themselves, and then we'll have a friendly discussion about whether no-code can scale, what scale means, and then have time at the end for Q&A. So, Mark, would you like to kick us off? Let's have a brief intro.
We're going to be passing this down the line, aren't we? Oh, no, we will. Guys, my name's Mark. I'm here representing V88. We are a no-code and AI agency, primarily using Glide, but we use a bunch of other tools alongside Glide. So that's me.
Awesome, thanks. Hi, everyone. My name is Theo. So I work for Bubble. We are an AI-powered visual development platform. And at Bubble, I work on our ecosystem, our developer ecosystem. So I manage our agency program. I work with Harish and a lot of other agencies trying to build apps for themselves or for clients that hopefully will scale.
So my name is Karla, and I have been building native apps using no-code tools for the last 4 years. I am a designer and digital product designer. And yeah, that's it. So I have been building and helping others to build, founders and so on.
Check, check. Hi everyone, I'm Matthew. I'm the education lead at WeWeb. Basically, I'm the person who's your go-to for learning WeWeb. I joined in December, and a bit of context, before that I was actually a low-code / no-code freelancer. We're mixing tools like Bubble, WeWeb and Xano and things of that nature, so I'm familiar with the space and I've been building apps, just outside of my day-to-day before I joined WeWeb.
Great. All right, thank you. So let's just be direct, because I get the question all the time, can no-code scale? Can no-code scale? How do you typically answer that question? Matt, let's start with you.
I mean, it very much depends on the use case. Who is it building? If it's a single person, if it's a business, it really depends. The answer directly is yes, but again, it depends on the nuance of the use case. I think the big thing around it, at a general level, is do you know what you're doing with the tool, and is the tool capable to meet your objectives? We'll probably dive deeper into the nuance of the use cases and that kind of nature, but to answer the question broadly, yes. I mean, the space is so developed now that maybe the answer would have been different 5 years ago, but all of the tools, the vast majority of the known tools, are very much capable of scaling. It just depends on your exact requirements and understanding the best practices of the tool.
Okay. Just on that, and we'll stick with you. What's your favorite example to use to back that up as to whether no-code can scale?
Probably enterprises. I mean, if I use the use case of WeWeb, we have enterprise customers like PWC, Decathlon, and they all start at different stages, and they all have their own journey into understanding, in our case, WeWeb, or whatever the tools they utilize are. And obviously, if it's enterprise, they have their own security needs, their own performance needs, everything that goes with it. So in terms of an example, that's, I always go to those.
Okay, that's a great example, thank you. Karla, what example do you love to use when people ask you, can no-code scale?
So actually, I think that's the wrong question.
This is my first, I get fired from being a moderator.
Because, a lot of people are really worried about, can no-code scale? But they are not thinking, do people actually want what I'm building? Do your solution actually need to scale? Do you need 1,000 users, 10,000 users, hundreds of thousands of users? There are a lot of products that don't have 100 users, and for them it's already very good. So why are people so worried about scalability when they don't even know what's the market that's out there for them?
I hear you. Often people worry about it. I hear you. Often people worry about it too soon, but of course the most important point is building a product people love and then worrying about scale. Okay, I like that. Theo?
Yeah, maybe to piggyback on what Matthew was saying, I think it's very important to maybe take a step back and ask the question properly, and I think it means different things in different contexts, right? Matthew talked about the enterprise context, right? Like, can no-code actually be brought into a large enterprise with security, compliance, and I think gave the example of PWCs. There are plenty of other examples, and I also think the answer is yes. If you look at a startup, right, I think the questions could be a little different. Can I build this, launch this, and raise money, right? Will I be able to work with investors if my stack is built with no code? I'm heavily biased, but I also think like the answer is yes, and there's a lot of great example. But yeah, like if you're a startup thinking about like what does scale mean for your use case, so that's fundraising, enterprise, it might be like security. I think there's a talent question as well. Like if you want no code to scale, you need to be able to staff, right, and build a team. Otherwise, you can't scale. So.
And just give us some examples, because Theo, I've heard you speak about great examples of can no-code scale. What are some of your favorite examples?
Do you want to pick a use case, enterprise, startup?
Let's have one from startup and one from enterprise.
Yeah. So startup, I think a great example is a German company called Sinflow that was built a few years ago. And they're building and deploying AI voice agent at scale, so fairly complex use case. Think of like call centers if you want to build a voice agent and then deploy it to 10,000 people making these calls. And it's all powered by Bubble. They're one of our fastest growing enterprise customers. And they've raised, I think, 2 rounds now, so a total of $10 million, and they're scaling. I frequently catch up with them, and we had a great conversation the other day where I was asking him, you know, as you're thinking about fundraising, how is the question evolving? Because it has evolved over the past few years. And the way he framed it to me is, listen, they trust our team, they trust our tech team, and we're more efficient with our cash. And so they actually, like that, those are points that we're scoring versus issues. So that's startup. And then maybe an enterprise one. One I like to talk about is Seagate, because I call them the 40-40, 40,000 employees, 40 years old as a company. And they started with internal tool. It took some time, but now they have like a team building internally, and they're extremely successful. And yeah, that's a great example of like no code or Bubble at scale.
Great, thank you. Mark, what's your favorite practical example of can no code scale?
Great question. So
Thank you.
We are probably in a slightly different space to some of the other guys here. We deal almost exclusively in internal solutions for business, and generally quite large business. And scale there can mean a number of different things. So scale can be at the base level, how many rows do you want to accommodate? But scale is also things like, if this kicks off within the business, how quickly can we add functionality to scale it within the business? How quickly can we onboard new people? How easy is it to use? So I think scale is not just necessarily about capacity, it's about how quickly can it make a change and scale within a business. So we tend to look at it in perhaps a slightly different way. We don't have apps that have 1 billion rows in them, but we have apps that have scaled exponentially within business and made a massive difference to that business.
Okay, got you. And any favorite practical example you love to use?
I really love an example with a company called BW Workplace. Great company, super innovative, big business, I think 500 mil turnover, something like that. And the solution there started off as a proof of concept with Glide, just answering tenders, working out what a tender wanted and then providing answers. And that thing is just scaling unbelievably now.
Nice.
Great, really great solution.
Great. Okay, cool. So we've got, it depends, right? That's the answer to all of it. It depends how you define scalability, and there's different aspects here because it can be scale for a startup using no code, and then can an enterprise business use no code? I think it's more obvious for a startup to use no code because they're looking for ways to move quicker, to find something more affordable. So let's jump into the enterprise side. We had a good example of PWC using it, which is a company everyone knows, a Seagate 40 plus years old. How do you get a huge company like a PWC or an older company like Seagate to actually think about no code and implement no code? This is open for the panel. Who wants to take it?
I can take it first. I think it's important to take a step back from the company perspective because usually companies don't wake up one day and out of the blue just say, hey, we want to use no code because they probably are built on traditional infrastructure and everything that goes with it. Usually there's a massive pain point that for whatever reason they've gone out of their way to go down this route of investigation. And so it's important to pick out what is that pain point that they have, so you can put in place some kind of success criteria. Because you aren't going to, in the case of PWC, whatever it is, you aren't going to suddenly overhaul your entire system to be no code overnight and take that decision. There's a lot of barriers you have to go through. There's a lot of stakeholders you have to win over. And so from an enterprise perspective, I think a big point in trying to win over an enterprise is, one, giving instant value, and that usually comes internally through champion builders. So it's identifying those champion builders and helping them put in place some kind of step-by-step process to do a wider rollout. So identifying that success point, why is it you're investigating these tools, that's massive, because then you can figure out a step-by-step process to get to that endpoint, but along the way getting the kind of small projects in the mix, I would say, that lead to that endpoint, but help give instant wins, instant value to win over stakeholders, and the wider organization.
Great, thank you. Okay, Theo or Karla?
I have heard of cases in Brazil, like where companies like Santander, it's a bank, or Quintandar, that is doing rental properties, as well as Mercado Livre and OXL, that's a huge market for announcements. They all are using NoCode for trying their features. They are all testing with developers already in a scale where they have beta users. They are seeing if the product works, making adjustments, and just after that, going for development, which is already a case study for NoCode too, that a lot of people actually don't think of, that you can just build a feature or do a partial work in NoCode and afterwards validate and then go for another solution if necessary. So that's what I want to add.
Nice, thank you for adding that.
Yeah, first maybe I want to make a quick comment on you calling Seagate an old company. They're not an old company. They're very modern. They're doing great, but they've been around for 40 years. I don't know if Seagate's going to listen to this, but they're great. Maybe to give a little bit of context, I think from like what I've seen, and you were asking about Seagate, so we can talk about them. Today, Seagate builds both internal tooling but also external facing software on Bubble. And I think the latter is the trickier one to do, especially at large enterprise companies, like client-facing software versus internal. And they got there, but they didn't start there, right? We, as you were saying, we had a champion internally that brought the tool and started building internal tools. So we built like one micro app, then a second, then a third, and then that turned into like 11 micro apps that were part of this like admin console. And that helped evangelize NoCode internally. He started training his team, and so now they have a team of 8 PM building on Bubble. They were previously working with like an offshore traditional dev team, and so they slowly built confidence and ROI internally, and then they moved to an enterprise plan with us, which helped them go through security and eventually get to the point where the Seagate itself was comfortable having some client external facing technology being built on Bubble. And so I think like really creating a plan for like milestones that we want to hit to show ROI internally, get more people, I think, comfortable with the tool, which is super important for us, because if we just have one champion and that person leaves and goes to do something else somewhere else, we have to start all over again. So yeah, start with internal tools, build value, build buy-in, and then scale from that.
Nice.
And I think I would probably echo this. There's a common theme across all the panel, I think, and that is that those internal heroes are really important. Certainly, historically, a lot of the projects we've been involved in are where an internal hero has taken it upon themselves to find some tech. Luckily for us, they've landed on Glide. They've done something that has impressed the business. They've made a difference in the business, and that's persuaded the next level up or the next level above that to throw some budget at it. Again, lucky for us, they've come to V88, and we've gone in and taken it to the next step. And really, I don't know if you guys would agree, I think, but once you get NoCode in place, and once the business sees how quickly you can solve a problem, it is very much a land and expand type scenario. So that's definitely the history for us. But I would say more recently, Glide themselves have done an excellent job in the way they've been positioning Glide. And I think with the advent of AI, people much further up the chain in enterprise are now looking for these smarter solutions. And I think NoCode gets dragged into that as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay, great points. Firstly, Seagate, if you're listening, Apologies. Being old is not an insult. It's not an.
I'll take that.
No shots fired. I mean, 40 plus years is a great business. Okay, a few points. So number one is have internal champions. Number two is start with micro apps and then land and expand. Okay, so Mark, you mentioned AI. So we have to talk about these vibe coding tools because people are building amazing things and sharing them on LinkedIn and Twitter in record time. And then I see people push back and say, okay, but they're not scalable. And so let's bracket them all together as NoCode and AI tools today. What's your view on these vibe coding tools? Can they scale?
Shall I go? I think we might all be about to say exactly the same thing from years of experience, maybe. I don't know. I think the answer actually is no. I think there is, at the moment, the way most of those tools operate at the moment is they're going to do a super job of understanding your requirements, and they're going to spit something out that's half decent, but ultimately you're still going to get a code base. And one of the things that's so incredible about NoCode is once you have landed, we spoke about that land and expand mechanism, the expansion of NoCode, the ability to just take and tweak is absolutely unreal. And the power of that within a business is what makes it stick. From my experience, that is much more difficult to achieve. So Lovable might give you a very pretty, I don't mean just Lovable, any tool of that ilk, Bolt, Lovable, whatever. They'll give you a good start, but ultimately you're still going to get a code base. And we have struggled to then do the add a bit, tweak, which NoCode is so good at. That's my take anyway.
Yeah, to echo on that a little bit and then maybe add to it. On the code-based piece that you were talking about, I think it's a really important piece because maybe that's something that people overlook with no-code, is that, at Bubble, for example, right, we have a platform team, we have an infra team that is constantly making sure we're building on the best stack, right, and refactoring and spending a lot of time and resources moving to newer technology. And what that means is a user that built and deployed and launched an app on Bubble 5 years ago, that app works today, that app runs today on a different framework because we do the work of making sure, maintaining and improving that infrastructure. Whereas if you use these tools today, which are frankly super impressive and will only get better, they'll still generate a code base for you. And you have to live with that code base and iterate on that code base. So I think that's one of the strengths. It doesn't necessarily mean that you cannot scale, but it's definitely something that I think one should think about. And then the other point that I wanted to bring is, I think we should probably separate the vibe coding between tools like Lovable and Bolt, which are amazing for prototyping and I don't think great for scale, and tools like Cursor and Windsurf, like AI-powered IDEs, which you need to be more technical to use, but can definitely scale. They're used in different manners, and what you're seeing online and on LinkedIn is not like what you're doing with Cursor and Windsurf. And so to answer that question, I think it's no, but I think there's nuance.
Yeah, good points. Thanks, Theo.
Yeah, I agree to that. I feel that AI is changing a lot, and we are all having fun with it, and it's so cool to see a product built in a couple of hours. But when you need to iterate, when you need to add a new feature, it's so painful. And sometimes it gets the whole code redone, and something was working and it's not anymore. So definitely really hard, and also hard to work in a team. So it's something that a lot of people are doing because they are a team of one, like I am. But if you add a team to it, it's practically impossible to keep things going. And then if you go to Windsurf and Cursor, it is a little bit more doable, but then you are not talking about non-technical people. You are talking about people that already are developers and know what they are doing.
I'm going to be contradictory here. I think it can scale, but with the caveat of if you're an engineer, so you actually know what's going on. But with that said, who knows where these tools will go? I mean, it's progressed so much in the past month to a year. I wouldn't want to bet against the fact, even if you're not an engineer, it could scale with how good the models could become in a year's time. But I think on the topic of scalability, I think one of the points is the fact that you have ownability. And so if I think of the enterprise example or a larger org, even if in a year's time or whatever, they can have a team member who is completely non-technical put in a prompt and it generates exactly what they need to, from the scalability perspective, I don't think they would be comfortable with it, even if it did the job, because they want someone who can go in and understand it and make manual tweaks if they need to. So I think from that perspective, it can scale potentially with the caveats. But if scalability encompasses ownability, then no, I don't think so. And that's where I think, as we said, the no-code, low-code space shines, because with the tools that have AI generation, AI is secondary. At the forefront, you're the builder, but the AI is almost assistant, and I think that's really where the future is.
Yeah, maybe if I can add something to that. I mean, what all these tools have built and demonstrated is super impressive, and I think everyone here, right, whether it's Glide, WeWeb, or Bubble, is definitely listening, and everyone is building AI into the editor. And so I think the winning product, people can argue and debate, but I think the winning product is going to be whoever can successfully blend visual programming with AI, right? And Lovable is actually starting to do that already, because they started with the AI and they launched a bunch of like visual editing features. And so we'll see where the market goes, but wouldn't be surprised if a lot of these players start to bring more of like what WeWeb, Glide, or Bubble has. And I think on our side, we're also listening and trying to integrate AI across the editor.
It's an amazing time, so let's see what happens. We're about to go to questions very soon. Before we do, is there anything you haven't said on the topic from anyone that you'd like to share? Because, you know, I get this question all the time, can no-code scale? Any points that...
Yeah, I mean, I would just make one point, and it's not even opinion, it's fact. No-code does scale. We are doing it right now, and certainly from our perspective, V88 is a very successful agency, and that's testimony to the fact that no-code scales, because we chose to go with significant corporate clients. That's our target market, and it works, no question. So not even an opinion, it does work, in our world anyway.
Facts.
Otherwise you wouldn't be in business.
Yeah.
And I would say, I think, regardless of the tool right now, because of how far the space has progressed in the past few years, any primary tool you use that's a mainstream no-code, low-code tool, it's highly likely it can scale. I think what matters so much now is the builder itself. What I mean by that is the actual builder, the person behind the tool that's being built. In truth, they're the one who makes it scalable. It's like traditional development in that sense. If they don't build it in a way that's performative and scalable, that's where the issues will lie. It's not actually in whether the tool can scale, it's whether your builders can scale.
Yeah, I think 100%, and I know there's a lot of different personas here today, but one of them is freelancers and agencies, and we have freelancer, ex-freelancer, agency owner. We need to keep leveling up the bar of talent globally. And so at Bubble, for example, one thing that we've been thinking of is like certification, right? And so we used to have no official what is the Bubble skill, what is a good developer, and we rolled out a first certification, but I think there's so much more work to do, I think, for us and for the whole industry, because yeah, if someone or a team makes a mistake or doesn't have the right training and it is at an enterprise, in an enterprise context and does something terrible, like the whole industry takes a huge reputational hit, so that's one thing we need to continue to push, and yeah.
Great point, thank you, Theo. Cool. Thank you so much. I've learned a lot, and like I said, it's a question I get often, and it's great to have different perspectives from agencies, freelancers, platforms across different different people. Thank you so much for listening. Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.